If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, this may feel uncomfortable to hear, because the women who cheat most often rarely look dangerous. They look safe. I'm not saying this to scare you, but as a psychologist who has watched the same pattern repeat in men of every age, background, and confidence level. Cheating is not random. It isn't bad luck. It is predictable when you know what to look for. Most men are never taught these signals because they challenge the fantasy they want to believe. One of the earliest red flags is emotional emptiness, disguised as charm. Some women are exceptionally good at making you feel chosen at the beginning. They mirror your values, your humor, your pain. But beneath that is a hollow core. Not because they are evil, but because they never learned how to regulate their own emotions. When boredom arrives and novelty fades, they don't communicate. They escape. Cheating becomes stimulation rather than betrayal in their mind. Another warning sign is a history of unstable attachments, explained away through victim narratives. Pay attention to patterns, not excuses. If every ex was toxic, controlling, or emotionally unavailable, ask why she keeps choosing the same dynamic. People who don't reflect, repeat, and repetition is where infidelity grows. Closely related is how she handles validation. Some women crave attention, the way others crave oxygen. One man's desire is never enough. Social media thirst, constant male friends, and subtle flirting framed as harmless are rarely accidents. They feed a need that one relationship cannot satisfy. Boundary confusion is another major signal. She doesn't clearly define what is appropriate with other men and makes you feel insecure for asking. Healthy women protect their relationship without being prompted. Women who cheat later often normalize emotional closeness with others, long before anything physical happens. Alongside this is impulsive behavior justified as living in the moment. There is a difference between spontaneity and lack of self-control. When accountability feels like oppression, commitment eventually feels like a cage. Here is a truth many men struggle to accept. Cheating rarely starts in the bedroom. It starts in identity. Women who don't know who they are when alone often search for themselves in someone else's arms. This isn't about blaming women. It's about protecting yourself. You don't need paranoia. You need clarity. When you see these signs early, you don't argue, fix, or chase loyalty from someone who hasn't built it within themselves. Another danger zone men often miss is subtle and emotionally confusing. These women don't appear disloyal. They appear wounded. One major red flag is unresolved trauma, worn as an identity instead of something being healed. Trauma itself doesn't cause cheating. Unhealed trauma does. When emotional safety feels unfamiliar, stability is mistaken for boredom. Calm. Relationships trigger discomfort, and chaos feels normal. Cheating becomes the emotional spike the nervous system craves. Listen carefully to how she relates to guilt and responsibility. Women who cheat often justify questionable behavior through emotional reasoning rather than moral clarity. I felt lonely. I wasn't getting attention. It just happened. Responsibility is shifted to circumstances or other people. When feelings excuse actions, loyalty becomes conditional. Secrecy disguised as independence is another warning sign. Privacy is healthy. Secrecy is not. If transparency triggers defensiveness or accusations of control, pay attention. Cheating thrives in emotional fog. Honest people don't fear light. Emotional entitlement is another overlooked red flag. Some women believe their happiness is a man's responsibility at all times. When disappointment occurs, resentment builds silently. Instead of communicating needs, relief is sought elsewhere. Cheating becomes revenge for frustrations never voiced. Watch how she handles small temptations. Flirting for power, crossing minor boundaries, and laughing it off trains the mind to blur lines. Infidelity is rarely a sudden fall. It's a gradual lean. Many men believe love means tolerating discomfort to prove loyalty. Yet the women most likely to cheat are often drawn to men who overgive, overextend, and not because kindness isn't valued, but because it removes consequences. When someone believes you'll stay no matter what, temptation loses its fear. Loyalty grows where standards are clear, not where sacrifice is endless. You cannot outlove someone who hasn't learned integrity. Some women don't cheat out of anger or trauma, but out of identity, confusion. This is the most dangerous type, because she doesn't see herself as unfaithful. She sees herself as finding herself. Her values, goals, and personality shift depending on who she's around. Today she's committed, tomorrow she's questioning everything. This isn't growth. It's fragmentation. Without a stable internal compass, loyalty becomes negotiable. Another pattern is romantic idealization followed by quiet devaluation. In the beginning, you are placed on a pedestal. Over time, admiration fades into subtle dissatisfaction, not because you changed, but because fantasy cannot sustain reality. Instead of building depth, she searches for a new high. Accountability is also revealing. If calm boundary conversations lead to shutdowns, tears, or accusations, it signals emotional immaturity. Cheating is the ultimate escape from discomfort. Comparison addiction erodes loyalty as well. Constantly measuring the relationship against others, past lovers, or imagined alternatives destroys gratitude. Temptation grows louder when appreciation disappears. Emotional triangulation is another overlooked sign. Confiding deeply in others, sharing intimate frustrations outside the relationship, and seeking validation elsewhere breaks emotional loyalty long before anything physical happens. Here is a truth many men resist. Not all cheating reflects dissatisfaction with you. Often, it reflects dissatisfaction with self. Strong men aren't just confident, they are selective. They observe how someone behaves when bored, stressed, or disappointed, because character is revealed under pressure, not passion. Cheating doesn't begin with opportunity. It begins with permission given internally, long before you hear about it. The final red flags are difficult because they force you to examine the dynamic you helped create. Power imbalance, disguised as romance, is one of the strongest predictors of infidelity. When a man becomes overly accommodating and a woman emotionally dominant, attraction erodes. Some women don't cheat because they stop loving you, but because they stop respecting the relationship. Desire needs polarity. Abandoning boundaries to keep peace quietly weakens loyalty. Conflict avoidance masked as kindness is another sign. She says everything is fine when it isn't. Suppressed resentment doesn't disappear. It mutates. When expression feels unsafe, release is found elsewhere. Emotional detachment often precedes physical betrayal. Curiosity fades. Responsiveness drops. Intimacy erodes. Many men sense this shift but avoid confronting it out of fear. Ironically, avoidance accelerates exactly what they fear. The goal is not to control a woman's behavior. The goal is to choose a woman whose character aligns with commitment. You don't screen for loyalty by interrogating. You screen by observing how she handles freedom, attention, disappointment, and responsibility. A woman capable of fidelity values peace over chaos, depth over novelty, and integrity over validation. If you've been cheated on, understand this. It was not proof of your inadequacy. It is an invitation to raise your standards with clarity, not bitterness. So, ask yourself honestly, connection without boundaries led to what in your past relationships? If this gave you clarity instead of comfort, you already know why it mattered.